Hello, I'm Robert, and you're welcome here in my busy little shop. On today's episode of What's on My Workbench, I've got a project that I've not shared with you before. I need to make a holster or a sheath. I guess, which way would it be? I guess maybe it would be considered a holster for the implement that's in this box. It's one of my viewers, and he reached out to me and asked me if I would consider making a holder for his Zippo lighter. And this isn't his. I went out and purchased one just to be able to make the video. And it wasn't a hard purchase. My father carried one of these Zippo lighters for decades. I think it started off as a nickel and it was worn all the way down where all you saw was the brass in there. So I'm going to be making, he asked for the color black cherry. That's what I call this leather here when I'm finished with it. This is the Montana leather, Vaqueta leather, and it comes pre-dyed in 6 colors. This is the red, and when I finish this, I will use black antiquing on it, and I think it gives it a really nice look. So he wanted tooling, so I've got to figure out how to get tooling on that small area there. I may attempt a couple of different ways. I think one I might do would be to create the basket stamp, but it's going to have to be really a small pattern. So I'll have to see how that comes out. And if that doesn't work right, then I'll come up with some different tooling on there as well. So I appreciate having you along. Let's get over here on the workbench and get started on this project. So a Zippo lighter is, it's not overly large. It roughly measures 2.5 by 1/2 by 1.5 inches. And I'm not sure where they first were created, the Zippo lighter. I don't know if it says something in here in the box or not, but I think it was a real popular lighter that the U.S. military gave out during World War II. So what I need to do is I need to create the pattern, and I have split this down before to something thinner. This piece of leather, let's see what it measures here where I'm at. It's 9 ounces. So I like the fact of having something thick like that to cut and to tool, but 9 ounces is really kind of small for this tight of an area. And then he wants it to attach to his belt. So I need to create it either like as a pancake or a loop on the back. And I'm thinking that if I did it as a pancake, I mean, it's going to start getting really big. And I don't know, maybe he would like the idea of it being large, but by the time you create the sides here for the belt to go through, it's going to have to be probably 4 inches. Of course, that gives more area to tool. So I guess I need to kind of think about that. I think what I'm going to start first is I'm going to see if I can create it smaller with a loop just in the back of it. And hopefully it doesn't want to like tip on there. Hopefully it stays kind of more upright. He also asked to have a flap of leather that maybe is held with a magnet. I think those were his words, to enclose it in there. I'll also need to create in the leather on the front a spot here in the bottom to where you can hook your finger on it and push the lighter up out of its holder. So there's a lot going on in a small space, but I think what I'll start off by doing is figuring out if I can get this pulled down to maybe say a 6 ounce, take 3 ounces off the back of this and make it a little bit easier to form on the front of this. So I think maybe the first thing I need to do is to cut a strip of this and see if I can pull it through the splitter over there. I probably need to sharpen it again because when you're starting to pull wide straps through there, it gets a challenge to do so. But maybe the first thing I'll do is I'll take some paper and let me see if I can create a little bit of a pattern on this, and then I'll come back to you when I have that done. Okay, so to get started, I spent a little bit of time on the cutting table and I made this pattern. And I tried to give a little bit of extra space. The one thing I don't like about making patterns is it doesn't always easily translate to the leather that I'm going to use for the project, unless you had paper that was that thick. But I went ahead and I created this pattern here to try to get an idea of tooling area, which is going to be pretty small on this. That's going to be for sure. So, you know, I'll make this and I'll do it with tooling, and then if it doesn't really like translate well, then I'll go from there. But so this is the pattern, and my idea is then you can push up here and remove the lighter. The next thing that I was going to do is well, let me show you some leather here. So I took the leather and I pulled this down. It's now 6 ounces. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for the front and the back. So the back will be, if this is the front of it, it's going to be like this. And it's that same conversation again. Do I put the finished side out on the back, or do I put the finished side here where you see it there? I could make the back out of some natural veg tan. So then it would be like this, with this being red. And I do have red dye. I can touch up the edges. But I'm thinking I'm going to make it totally out of this. So this piece of leather that I have pulled down here, I think is enough leather to do the complete project. So I guess, like I usually do, I just kind of jump in and start cutting, and then realize then it usually works out correctly. So of course the tabs aren't going to come out that far. It'll be sewn together like here, so I need about something like this. Gives plenty of room to trim the back to here. There's a little bit of a scar here. I'm just going to cut that across here. So that'll be the back, and I think I'll just slick the back side of this down. Most of that's not going to show anyway because it's going to have a strap to hold it onto it. Then the next piece is going to be the front, which will be like this one, and it will be put on much like this. So I guess I'll just see how much I need there. Once again, I don't need all of this here, because it'll be like this and then sewn together with, say, a 1/4 inch allowance. So if I hang that over like that, and then if I come here, yeah, I'm just going to start here. There's my magnet. The same size here. So that'll be made up into this piece here. And then next will be, I need a way of attaching it to the belt. And I talked about, making it as a pancake. But what I'm going to do is, on this first one, is I'm going to make it with a loop on the back. And that loop on the back is going to transition into a flap to hold that in. So that's the front. I'll set that aside. And without cutting this down, this is kind of what I'm envisioning, is the loop of leather comes over like this. If this is the middle, maybe that makes it more visual for you. In here like this. And the back of this is going to end up being about 2.5 inches wide. But this flap up here is like 1.5 inches wide. And I think what I've decided to do, instead of having it come up and taper to the front, I'm just going to cut a strip that's I'm just going to say 1 inch wide. So I'll cut that out of this piece here. And I took it over there, and this last bit here I split down just like a little bit further. So the body of that is that's 5. I think over here maybe it's a little thicker. That's getting close to 6. This is the back, and that's the same. So about 5 3/4. And then this front is now pulled down to 4, about 5. I don't want to go any further because I'm going to do tooling on the front of this. But since this flap is going to cover up a big part of that, I feel like I need to tool this too. And I hate tooling, leather that's even 5 ounces. I have a tendency to cut too deep. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'll cut this, and this is the thinner part here, and I'm just going to cut a inch wide strip through here. So if this is in here, and if this is the back, yeah, I think I'm doing that right. Yeah. So it will be like this with this flap here. And the gentleman that I'm making this for wanted a magnet on the flap. So I found this magnet here, and I think it's going to be strong enough. It's not going to be like overly strong, but once the leather gets broken in, I think that that will work on there. So with all that said, I think I've got my general plan here figured out. And I'm going to leave this shape here to remind me which is the thin down area here, because it's not greatly thinned down. But I need to start figuring out the tooling that I'm going to create here. And I'm going to do it on this piece here. So maybe the thing to do, I haven't done tooling on something this small, but I think if I lay this on here and kind of scribe out where these cuts are going to be, that I can then create my tooling inside of there. So that's roughly where my tooling will be. These edges here, it's going to be more like, maybe I should mark that on there, where I anticipate my stitch line and all that to be, but it's going to be, I'm going to leave it a little bit long, but it's going to be like here. And I don't know, what do you think? Should I just run I could run the tooling big this way, and then it just trims off and melds into that. If I do the basket weave pattern on here in some small pattern, then I think I can run that off the edges. I don't think that would be a problem to be ran off the edges. I think what I need to do, I've got this scrap here that's about the right width. I think what I'll do is I'll go over here and I'm going to see, I'll practice a little bit on here with the basket weave design and see if I can make it visually look right on here. And then if I can't, then I could also do just a tooling that's like a all over like a dimpled pattern on there, something kind of like this, that would create a kind of an interesting pattern that then would hold a little bit of antiquing and give it that black cherry look. So I'm going to set up over here, and I'm going to lay out a pattern much like I do on the like my journal cover that I've created, like this. But this is a 1-inch grid, and I think I'm going to have to be like something small. I don't know if a 1/4 inch, maybe like a 3/8 inch grid on here. So I'm going to lay that out, and then I'm going to come back. I've done a lot of the tooling of this basket stamp. I'll show maybe a little bit of that, but I'm not going to wear you out with that. I'll come back once I've created this, and we'll take a look at it and see what we think. All right, so I've fiddled here some. I was cutting on this for a different purpose, but this is the pattern, and I didn't do a whole bunch of it. I think I'm going to like how that looks. The next thing I need to do is to get it laid out here on this and do the tooling. I've been adding a little bit of moisture to this as I go. And the bigger challenge is the fact that really the face of this is going to get covered greatly by this strap. So I have to figure out how to, I guess I don't have to. I can leave that as it is. But it seems like it's just a blank slate looking for something on it. So I think I'm going to try to figure out, that's why I cut on this, is to get it cut down to about the width of what that strap is to see, can I put that pattern on there or do I have to modify it? And if I did like this, kind of a wandering thing down through there, I think I can maybe do that. I may have to freehand cut that in there and then hate myself. I mean, freehand cut that in there and then probably be frustrated with how it comes out. But I guess I'm going to try to give it a try. I might make them more elongated this direction so that they're not true squares. They're more diamond shaped. We'll see when I get to that. First, I need to work on this part here. And normally when I lay out the basket weave on the journals, I just use a 1-inch ruler and cut there and then just line up on that last cut. And it takes the math out of trying to figure out the correct length so that they come out square, because if you see there when I first started working on it, I thought I had it laid out to where they would be square, but you can see they're rectangles. So I remembered that I purchased this, and I think it's made for cutting lace, but I purchased this when I was in Florida, and I think I'm going to try to use that to help lay this out. The first thing I need to do, though, is to lay off a 1/4 inch at the top. I think that's what I decided I want to have at the top, because if I run that pattern like this is all the way up that top edge, I'm afraid that it might want to fray or tear there. But I feel like if I create this border here, that will help protect that top edge. That's my thought process. So I'm going to just create a little relief here at the top, further narrowing down how much I have to work with here, right? And then I'm going to set this at a 45-degree angle across there. And I wish this thing was clear. I guess that's about 45 there. And if I go every other one of these spots, let me find my smaller, and these are 1/4 inch, so if I go every other, then it should give me my 1/2 inch interval, or 1/2 inch wide. Shoot, where was that? 1, 2, 3. Don't go too high. I can go off the bottom because I'm going to let that pattern fall off the bottom. Okay, now we're this way. Now I need to come back this direction and line up and do the same thing. And I need to line up one of these here. If I do that, then these should line up, right? That's what I'm thinking. Having a hard time seeing in there. Try to employ a little more light. I can see the lines when I hold it there. I just have to see where it lines up there, and I need to keep my proper angle here. There we go. I think I can find that. There's where it stops. All right, let's see what it looks like. The worst I can do, I've said it before, start over. I think that looks pretty good. I've said a couple times, I'd rather be lucky than good. And I think I fit in that category today. I originally hadn't intended to get down in here, but it's just too many things to keep track of to try to make it look right. These are a little bit more diamond than squares, if that makes sense. I wonder, there's probably some place where I can buy like rulers or strips of metal that are you know, set widths, because like I said, my ruler's an inch wide. If I had one that was a ½ inch wide, it would have made this process easier. If you know where to find such an item, let me know. I think I'm just going to freehand this. I know someone's going to ask me if I have any imagination and have any other tooling patterns, but when the gentleman asked me to make the this case for his Zippo and was talking about black cherry, I sent him the picture of the red journal cover that I created, and it was almost more for the color than for the pattern, and says, you know, how does this color look? And he's like, yeah, I like that. I'm not sure if the pattern fits because of its size, or something like that. That's how the conversation went. So that's how I got started there. I'm like, well, I can probably modify and use a smaller pattern. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing here. I guess we'll see how it comes out. If nothing else, I've said it before and I'll say it again, put it on my artisan booth table, and it will probably create conversation, if not true interest. I find that if I'm tooling something like this, instead of trying to coming down here and cut this and then tool that small area, it's hard to do without you know, having the start and stop. So I'm going to run this pattern off and then I'll cut it out of it. And I think, well, obviously I'm hopeful that that'll work okay. I'm going to let that sit for a bit. Kind of rhymes. And when it's ready to tool, I'll come back. I wanted to do the rest of the work, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose my pencil marks here if I do the antiquing. So I need to go ahead and punch those out. I'm using a ½ inch punch on this spot. I'll go like that, and these will go down like that. I'll have to wet it, I think, to form it. But I think the next thing I need to do is to get this antiqued and some finish on it. I'll pull the tape off. I can wet it from behind to get it shaped where I need it to be. Or maybe I should do that before. Now, it's hard to antique it around those shapes. So here is the new strip of leather, and I'm going to make what I think is a fairly simple approach to the Zippo case. But I'm going to have this piece here is going to fold over, and I'm going to go ahead and tool it with this same pattern. And then I'll make a pouch out of this lighter weight piece that I stripped down. And I try to get it light enough so that when it's in the case, like that, that you're able to push up on the bottom of it and get it to slide up enough to get a hold of it. This will not be tight, form fit like this. I'll make this loose enough to where it's not that hard to push up out of there. So that's my take two on this. This is one reason why a lot of times I ask if somebody's got something special that they want a holster or a sheath made for, that I have that implement so that I can really kind of get inside of what could be the potential problems. And like I said, at the end, this might be strong enough to where you can pull on this, you know, regularly, but I was concerned. It's spot welded in there. It's probably a good connection. I think their lighters are, you know, are made well, but I didn't want to cause a problem down the road. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to set up, and I'm going to tool this same basket weave pattern on this front flap, and it's going to have a magnet in here that will hold this down. The leather flap won't need a whole lot of pressure to hold it down, especially once it's broken in. It should stay down there pretty well. So I've got a magnet, and while the case of this I think is nickel plated brass, this inner part here is metal, and that will allow the magnet to hold that flap closed. So this is take two, and I don't think I need to you know, show you all the way along. So I'm going to get this tooled, and then we'll come back when we're ready to do the assembly. So I finished my tooling on the front of this Zippo case. It's going to be similar to about there. So I don't need all of this, but I thought I would just leave it there until I get to that point that I'm ready to sew on the other part of it there. And I put a coat of TanKote on here to kind of limit the how much is absorbed in and affects the color. And when I've got a texture like this, I find that a toothbrush, don't borrow a friend of yours toothbrush, helps to get it down into that texture. I use TanKote. I've had a few people say, you know, that's not a true resist. I'll get to some pro resist one of these days, but I had quite a bit of TanKote, and I don't typically use it on my belts. I usually use Resling because most of my belts are dyed, and I just like how that works in keeping color transfer. So put that on there. This is going to be the inside of it there. This is some wrinkles here. This is from the neck area or towards the belly, and it's kind of a cool pattern in it. So I'm not afraid to use that. And this area where this is going to be used, I could use some natural stretch to it to help in removing the lighter. I'm just applying it here as well so that the two of them match. So I give that just a few minutes to kind of tack up, get an even color penetration on here. And I just love this kind of cellular look there. Some of this will come off whenever I put the clear coat on there, but I just think that's really pretty cool looking. And we'll do the same over here. I get pretty aggressive trying to wipe it out of this texture. I don't want a buildup of paste down in there that will potentially crack and flake out. All right, so now that I've got all that done, I'll let this dry for probably 12 hours or so. When I come back, I'll put a clear on both of these parts. I will seal the inside. I'll remove the tape, obviously. Seal the inside of this, and that'll help to eliminate the possibility of color transfer from there. But I think I like where we're headed there. I think I covered it earlier, but I'll put it here again just in case. So originally my design was to have a holster for the Zippo lighter, and it would sit like this. And then you could use your right or left side, but you could hook it with your pinky here and push that up to then get a hold of it and pull it out. And my concern was the hinge point here. I didn't want to have a long-term stress on that hinge point. I could have made this smaller so that when you pushed it up, maybe you could get a hold of it beyond there. But it still kind of bothered me that it could potentially either be too loose, and if you had it narrow there, that it might want to fall out. So the other thing is, I think a lot of people collect Zippo lighters, and it doesn't offer a whole lot of protection against wear. So yesterday I tooled this up. This will make up the body of the Zippo case, and I've cut this aside. So if you're following along, let me give you some measurements here. This is 2 5/8 wide. I cut this a little bit long, but right now as it sits, it is 5 7/8 long. This will make up the belt loop, which is 2 3/4 inches by 1 1/4 inches. And then I have this overcut piece that's going to make up the pocket or the pouch. I guess I can tell you how wide it is, but it's not going to be relevant because I'm going to be trimming down from this, but it's 3 1/2 inches. So with all of that said, let me look at this assembly here. I think I've thought about it. Do I want the flap be up below the bottom of the Zippo lighter so it's easier to get a hold of? I don't think that's necessary. I do like this tooled pattern, so I want as much of that showing as possible. But even if it was up short, you'd have this edge because that pouch will get sewn down onto here. So I think I'm going to just line up, you know, here at the bottom with this. And let me mark where the bottom of the Zippo lighter is on here. Okay. That's going to be important because I will be I'll be sewing this pouch part on. This is all going to get covered here. So nothing wrong with being a little heavy-handed with my mark there. So now I've got that pencil line. Let me measure that in case someone wants more exact information. That's 5 1/8 inches. There'll be 1/4 inch beyond here where it's sewn, and then I'll be trimming the rest of that off. But there's no need to do that ahead of time. So the next thing is to create the pouch, or to cut the leather to create the pouch. And it doesn't need to be all the way up to the top. It really needs to be just enough so that when this is folded over that it's, you know, held in place. So I'm thinking this might be a place where a little bit of the less is more. would be better. So I'm thinking like that. And the pouch doesn't need to be like crazy tight. I don't know if Zippo lighters, if there's different sizes of Zippo lighters. So let me assume that I pinch it in like that. And let me mark here, here to here. If you remember, the Zippo lighter is a 1/2 inch thick. So if I come here, let's just say there, 1.5 inches, then I need a 1/2 inch to come down to here, and then I'll just do a 1/2 inch there. So if it's 1.5 inches, so I need 2.5 inches. If anybody knows where I placed my favorite ruler, I'd like to know. It's got the non-slip. This has cork on the back, which works pretty good as a non-slip, but I'd really like to have my other ruler back, and I cannot figure out where I placed it. Okay. That's going to go like that. So before I get myself ahead there, I need to place my belt loop on the back side here. And I intend to sew it in on this bottom here when I sew this flap on there as well. In other words, it'll go through, I'll sew through here, through the body of it, and through the belt loop. So to get prepared for that, I need to mark where I'm going to have my stitch line. So I'm going to say it's, starts to get somewhat important here. I guess there, somewhat arbitrary, but not. So that will be where my stitch line is on the back. And let me round these corners. People ask me, these are the corner tools from Weaver Leather. They call them the corner knife, if you're looking them up. They are not inexpensive, but sure is handy. This Vaqueta leather from Montana Leather furnishes like a dream. Just those number of swipes and we're already there. I don't have tallow in this rag. I don't have saddle soap. It's just a rag I've been using for a while. I'm just saying that so you know that the sheen isn't from, you know, an additive added to here. Nothing wrong with doing it that way. I think it looks pretty good. So if I do my stitch line here, I'm just looking to make sure that I don't get sewn up in here too far and cause a problem on my flap fold over. To check that, let's set this here. That's where I think the bottom of it's going to be. Place that in there. Yep, I think we'll be good. A little two-sided tape to give me a third hand here while I'm working. I need to have a stern talking with myself to start putting my tools back when I get done using them. So this is my stitch line down here. I'm just trying to keep that in view. I'm going to use the Tiger Ritza thread, John James needle, and I'll use black since the accents here are black. I think that'll look good. I've got a red, but I think it'll stand out too much. So to start off, I'm going to sew this top on, and that's it. I won't sew this bottom on until I have this piece of leather installed. I've had some nice channel growth here lately. I do appreciate everybody that has subscribed, and making comments really is encouraging to me. It's hard sometimes to work if I just get crickets back in that area. So yeah, drop me a note. Let me know what you like about the channel. I don't have a problem with it as long as it's constructive, but tell me what you don't like as well. I'll start with 2 wraps here because I'll do a back stitch on this other side and I want them to match up. Square knot here. Okay. We'll do one more fit here, see if I need to adjust my bottom line at all. If it's there, flap comes over and it doesn't interfere with that loop. So I think we're in good shape there. Very nice. If you remember, I said I'm going to be 1.5 inches, so I'm going to put a little mark here. 1.5 inches on these 2 sides. I coated the inside of this with resin to eliminate and help control the potential of dye bleeding, so I'm roughing up that resin here. So I'm just going to use the number 1 here. Same on the back. I did the bottom edge one more time here. It's going to get trimmed off. There was somebody probably said, hey, that's the bottom edge. Okay. Now I got to think about how I want to do this. If I start here, tack that down, then I've got something to push against. Is that going to make it hard to form this corner? So I don't want to leave a huge amount of extra leather here. I don't want it to like be pushed out because of that. But I suppose it can, you know, it'll work. If it's pushed down here, it'll pucker out on the sides some. It's fairly pliable leather that I chose for this part so that you could push against the bottom and push it out of there. The binder clip is in further than where my stitch line's at, so that's creating a little bit more pressure on the Zippo. But I feel pretty confident that's going to work. I've got to figure out how I want to handle this pooch down here. Should I start here? And then let's clip it that way and see. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trim a 1/4 inch off the bottom here. Leave some trimming room once I get it assembled. I like to be able to trim to fit the 2 layers together and get them burnished and have them all in the same place. So I'm installing a little bit of contact adhesive. I'm going to put it on all 3 stitch areas on the main body of this holster. But I'm only going to install it on this bottom here so I don't inadvertently get something tacked in the wrong place. And I'm only going to put it on here. I put it on all 3 areas. I'll just put it along the bottom here. That'll help me keep from maybe inadvertently getting it in the wrong spot on these sides. So I'll come back when I'm ready to put these together. Main thing is I want to keep it square to the body here so that I don't end up with a crooked top line. Oh, it looks a little crooked, doesn't it? Okay. Let's see here. All right, now that I have it there, I am going to be stitching a line about there on there. There's a lot of theirs there. Set this here. Fold that over. And tuck this around. Probably don't want all the way there, there, and there. I marked that so that I'm able to get contact adhesive where I want it. Because it's going to be a little bit of a taper there. Come back here in a minute when this is ready. Down to brass tacks here. Maybe somebody can explain how we came to using that term, brass tacks. I think sometimes we forget how we get to those sayings. It's a little higher on this side. Oh, I tell you what, I think we're getting there. We're getting there. This mottled area here, I thought it was kind of a cool element that is because of it being, I'm not sure if that's, I can't remember where I cut that, belly or neck, shoulder area there. I wouldn't want it probably on a whole pattern, but I think it adds a little interest there. Okay. Let's go ahead and get my stitching holes created and pattern inserted. Let's figure out my stitching here. I think we're going to come right here. Down in line with this row of stitches here. don't want to come all the way to the corner because I want to round this area here. I don't like square corners, especially in an area like that that's going to rub against jeans and just, you know, regular use. I want this first stitch to be over the top of this leather. Give it a little extra support, so I'm going to space it on here like that. Just like that. I want to make sure that I meet here, so I think I will bring this on over. I'm not sure how rounded I want yet. Let me lay up a little bit short there. That's too far. Rinse and repeat. It's really, in my mind, some may say a little project is easier. In some ways, I find it challenging because I know that the person looking at this can like take in all of the details in a glance. Whereas when you are doing, say, a belt or backpack, it's not that you can't find them, but they're spread across the larger area if there's any like little variations. And I made a comment about that not long ago, and someone's like, I don't ship anything if it's got a mistake in it. And I think, you know, your stitching is created by a human. It's going to have human flaws in it. And to me, having a few, what I'll call human flaws, is better than having, you know, something that's you know, created by a computer and from appearances is you know, perfect. Let me set up over here and let's stitch this. This has been a fun project. This was a project that one of my viewers reached out to me and asked, would you make a case to hold my Zippo on my belt? You know, and it'd be easy to say no, but if you know me, I'm always looking for, you know, a fun project to, you know, challenge my abilities, and this one did, create some new and interesting content. I think that fits the bill as well. And even though I started over, I will learn quite a bit from the process as well. And I hope that I'm able to convey some of that, and maybe someone else can, you know, be encouraged to try something that's somewhat new to them. Well, that pushed that over. This is the front side. Even though the more finished looking side is, you know, on this other side, when you're looking at it, this is going to be the side you're going to see most often. And I like to sew with as much as possible the front side on my right side of the stitching pony. It makes a little difference, not a whole lot to me, but that's why I'm set up this way. I'll take this on the inside here, and I'll tie a square knot in. So I took this on the inside, and I'll tie a square knot there to end. So let's see how it's going to look. I think we're getting there, by George. I'll take a little bit of sandpaper here, turn on one of my favorite YouTube channels, and get this sanded. I left it a little fatter here at the bottom. I may trim that off, but I wanted to see how it looked there. Recently I had a project that I didn't like as much because of my seam allowances when I finished, so I'm a little gun shy here, so I'll take a look at it and see, but I can come up another 1/8 of an inch there, probably need to. Somebody's probably asking, how are you going to hold that down? I have a plan. Hopefully it works good. Need to really kind of break this leather in up here at this top. I want it to be easy to flip open and close. All right, I'll do a little work on here and I will be back shortly. So I'm just applying some Pro dye here to this edge using a Q-tip. I know a lot of people will use the applicators. This has been working fine for me, and I kind of stick with what works for me. I don't mash here in the middle of the Q-tip. I work from the bottom up because you can make it run out of it just like you can with the markers. That's what I'm trying to avoid with using a Q-tip. There we go. So we're at this stage here. I think we're looking pretty good. I'm anticipating that as this area here breaks in, you could get a slight shift, probably longer, not shorter there. But you could also have maybe a Zippo lighter that's slightly taller. So they do make magnetic closures that have, a part on each side that it connects to. But I thought I would go maybe just a little bit different there. I picked up this magnet here, and it bonds very nicely to the metal that's inside the Zippo. So I'm going to install that over here. I want to make sure I get it the correct way. Does it matter? I guess it really doesn't matter, does it? To prepare for that, I've marked where it's going to be installed here on the back side, and I want to scratch this up some. To make sure I get a good bond. Whatever you went to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install it there, and I'm putting this leather cover over it. And no, it's not going to be sewn in place. It'll be by contact adhesive. I guess we'll find out. I think that'll hold up fine. It's more just to cover it and I guess camouflage it than anything else. Let me put some contact adhesive here. All right, we are tacky but dry. And I went ahead and I originally had this one that was finished, but I'm going to want to potentially wet form this around that a little bit. So I cut another one out that doesn't have finish on it. I can add a little bit of finish to this if I feel like it needs it when I get it installed. So let me place this close to dead center as I can. And same here. It's going to work fine. Like it's sealed pretty well around there. You don't really have to push on the bottom, but there's room to push on the bottom. Well, there you go. Another finished project. The Zippo case here, I think, is really nice. It's got a loop here to go on your belt. The top on it stays closed nice. It'll probably get even easier to open and close as this leather breaks in here with use. The softer leather here allows me to push on this and help get that up out of there so you're not putting stress on the top of the Zippo lighter. I'm glad that I went ahead and backed up and started over. The other case I think looked really nice, but I had some concerns on stressing the hinge on the lid here by pulling up on that. The little finger group, I could have made that groove deeper to get it up out of there, but then I was worried about it holding it securely in place. This case here offers more protection to the zipper. I know a lot of people have some large collections, and this will offer protection there. Yeah, so I think it worked out really good. I'm glad he brought it up. If you've got a project in mind, even if you don't want to buy one, would you let me know what project you have in mind? Believe it or not, I do come up against roadblocks at times of what the next project will be. But I think it turned out really beautiful. I think the basket weave detail worked out good in this smaller format. I don't know if I'd go much smaller than that. It's 3/8 by 3/8. So I think it turned out really good. So we'll wrap it up there. I appreciate you taking time to be with the shop. Please like, share, and subscribe. But more importantly, I do hope you have a great day.